She who thrives. Phoenix rising. The true me. The ups and downs crazy in life. So take this journey with me. She who thrives. Yeah. Good morning, sunshines, and welcome to She Who Thrives, a podcast about embracing the grind of life while learning to shine through it. I'm your host, Janell Borrero, and before we begin, I want to ask you to please subscribe, follow, rate, and review. I really appreciate your love and support. And now, I would like to welcome my next guest. It's a very special guest. She is a mommy, a wife, and an entrepreneur. Yay, my Stephanie! So her and I have met at a networking event. I don't know what it was called. I don't remember that one.
I think was
What
it
happened to
Opla?
Opla? Yeah, it was Opla.
It just ended. It disappeared.
Yeah. So, thank you for coming. I'm excited that you're here.
Me too. I'm so happy to be here with you in this new journey that you're starting. And I'm always here to support you.
Yay! So, little about Stephanie. Before I wrote a book, everybody so far is starting to know that I am an author. I wrote a book called Loving a Bipolar Bear. And before I wrote that book, I did run it past Stephanie. So besides meeting in networking events and stuff, we became friends outside of that. So every now and then we meet up for brunch or whatever.
Yep.
So before the book was written, I did run it past her, and it opened up doors, and we spoke about more on a personal level about things that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the purpose of this book is so that way people know that they're not alone on this journey. Because when we're going through something, we tend to feel completely by ourselves through it all. So speaking with her, she has gone through many adversities in life, and she's here to talk about them.
Yes, absolutely.
So now you do have a business that you've been working on for how long have you been doing it now? 3 years?
I opened my business in 2019.
Has it been that long?
And that was just me alone doing closings by myself. In 2020, I decided to open my signing service.
Mm-hmm.
And because my daytime job was interfering with me doing a lot of closings.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to open the signing service. So that way I can gain some money and open up, and have other notaries do closings for me. That way I can help these title companies nationwide.
So how many notaries do you have under you now?
I have quite a few. I don't even know the number, but it's nationwide. So I have more than hundreds. I mean, I have a big network of notaries.
Uh-huh.
So it's this network that I have where I have all the notaries listed. So notaries go to that platform.
Mm-hmm.
They signed up. They load their credentials and all that good stuff that I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I find all my notaries. Now, when notaries do a good job for me and for my client, then I'll add them to my preferred list. So I'll send them the closings. I send them to them before I send it out to the rest of the world.
Are you enjoying this?
I'm enjoying it. It's really hard because sometimes people they're not as perfect as you, and they don't go as hard as you would like them to. Maybe because it's not their business that's on the line, and it's my name that's on the line. But I had to learn how to let that go because I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And I'm that type of person that once I see you doing something that's not the right way of doing it, I grab it from you and I just do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn how to let that go. So if I see that you are not doing it the right way and I coach you to do it the right way one time, I think one time for me is enough. And I'm not going to use you no more.
Yeah.
I go to the next one because there are a lot of good notaries out there.
Yeah.
So I just have to find them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's so hard to find anybody with anything, any help, period, because a lot of people don't even want to work right now.
Exactly. All they want is the money, but they don't want to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And they don't take criticism.
Yes, and I think it's just I think our age, we were raised completely differently. So right now, I mean, I was reading this thing that these 20-year-olds are very entitled.
Yeah,
So I think that's the difficulty there when you're trying to
absolutely.
hire people.
Absolutely. We're the best generation because we were at the
Hands
beginning.
down.
Yeah. We were born at that stage where we didn't had a cell phone, we didn't had an internet or any of that good stuff.
Yeah.
But we transitioned to having that as well. So
Yeah.
from having nothing, now we have everything. So we know both sides.
Mhm.
This generation doesn't know that other side, the
Yeah.
struggles that we went through. So they don't appreciate what they have.
So talking about struggles that you said right there. So this is the part that I want to talk about struggles. What encouraged you first to want to open up this business?
I want to quit my daytime job. And I never do.
Uh-huh.
So that was my main focus.
Mhm.
But then my daytime job is just giving me some great perks. So I just cannot let it go. So I'm just doing both.
Mhm.
And then on my business, I cannot go as far as I want to because
Yeah.
my daytime job is, prevents me from doing that.
Uh-huh.
But I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
So do you ever see yourself letting go of your daytime job? I know you want to, but realistically, do you see yourself doing it?
At this moment, like today,
Uh-huh.
no. I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know about next year. But today, like
Uh-huh.
now at this moment, no.
So I know when I started, I did have my job and I had my business on the side. And a lot of entrepreneurs start
Yeah.
that way. They have their full-time job and then they have their business on the side,
Yeah.
and then you end up growing your business and let go. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I did it because I didn't have a fear of losing it all and starting all over because I came from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how to build again.
Yeah.
So just like when I went through my divorce,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, it's rebuilding, and it's not the first time me rebuilding again. So your struggles and your rebuilding, I know you are married now. This
Mm-hmm.
is your second marriage, and
Yeah.
you guys seem to be so great together.
We are. Yeah, we are. We are.
But you were married before.
Yeah, I was. Well,
And
not legally married.
no, you weren't.
I'm not gonna give that person that entitlement to say that he was married with me.
Okay.
We were living together.
You were living together. So tell me about that, because this podcast is a lot about women going through different adversities in life, and from those adversities have become successful in their own right, whether it's in motherhood and entrepreneurship or at their job,
Yeah.
whichever. And in your case, it's all three.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, I met this person when I was only 17 years
you're
old.
young.
And it was at a bad timing because I was going through and it's funny because I was talking about this with my sister yesterday on the phone. And when I met him I was going through a situation in my house with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
She was living with someone which happens to be the father of my two smallest brothers. And he was an alcoholic, and he will abuse my mom a lot. Like he will like physically hit my mom. Like he would beat the shit out of my mom in front of us. I was a young girl. So I did not want it to be home because that was just like so negative.
Toxic,
And yeah, it was toxic. That's the word. And I just didn't want to be home. So I ended up just hanging out in the street. And I'm talking about a moment that we were living in Puerto Rico because we were in New York, And my mom met this man on a vacation that we went to Puerto Rico for Christmas. And all of a sudden she's in love and she decided to move all of us to Puerto Rico. And I just didn't want to go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Puerto Rico because my mom said, you're a minor and wherever I go, you're going to be right in front of me. So I had no choice. But going back to the story, yeah, he was very abusive with my mom and also with my brother. And I just didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So I ended up just hanging out in this place that we call in Puerto Rico La Plaza. Mm-hmm. Like a little place, in town where everybody goes and hang out at night. Mm-hmm. And I met this person. This guy, from the street, hanging out, more experience than me. I'm naive. I'm just starting to be on the street. And I got involved with him. To the point that I became pregnant. And I became pregnant because my mom was not that type of person that will sit with you and talk to you about things that you need to know about birth control, taking care of yourself, and all those things that I talk to my daughter about.
I think the old school Hispanic mothers really don't believe in doing that.
And I was afraid to even talk to my mom about those things. Like, I just couldn't talk to her about anything. I couldn't ask a question. So I didn't know about any of that. And I came out pregnant. So now I'm pregnant, 17. I don't know what to do. But in my mind, I was like, I don't want to raise my son, or I don't want my son to see this kind of environment. So I ended up going back to New York with my sister. I left him and I go to New York and I try to do my life. I start applying for apartments and all that good stuff. I ended up on public assistance. To this day, I still have the ID card they used to give you, so you could go to the cashier's place, give the card, they'll swipe it, and the machine goes blah blah blah, and you get your food stamps and all that. And that was back in the days when the food stamps were on paper.
I was gonna remember it was in paper in the book. Yeah, you gotta rip it out.
Yep. So I went to public assistance and ended up finding this apartment. So I'm going to find an apartment. I find an apartment in Brooklyn and thinking that my mom is going to come and live with me, with my brother too, so that way she can live that man over there. Well, no, she decided to come and she brings this man. I was like, oh my God, like, Jesus, I'm trying to get away from this. And here she is bringing this person. Yeah. So I have to apply again. I ended up having approved application to the projects. So I said, okay, I have no choice. I'm just going to leave. Right. So I left to the projects. And at that point, the father of my son, I don't know what happened in Puerto Rico, and he decided to move here to New York and live with me. So me here, naive, I said, okay, well, I want to try it. Maybe I don't want my son to, I don't want to raise my son without a father, because I was raised without a father. My mom and my dad were divorced when I was 9 years old. And I don't think my mom really know to this day how shocking that was to me. But that was really shocking. It was really bad for me. And so I didn't want that to, I don't want to give that same life to my son. So we lived together I stayed with this man for 20 years. And in those 20 years, most of them were really bad because this man, and I was able to realize that this was happening after all these years passed, because again, I didn't have the knowledge. And I didn't know.
You thought it was normal?
I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
So I thought that domestic violence was just a man hitting a woman. I didn't realize that there is financial abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse. And all that falls in domestic violence, and I didn't know that. So I learned all of that by doing my own research. That's it.
So you didn't do counseling or anything for it?
I didn't do no counseling. I started doing counseling at the end of like so many years when I was like tired of it. I couldn't take it no more, and I had nobody to talk to, because that was one of the signs, and I didn't know that. I didn't see that. They isolate you from your family.
Yeah.
They don't want you to have access to anything on the outside world that can come and help you.
So influence your brain basically against them. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody that you meet is not a good person, according to them. No, that's not a good, but because they're seeing that this person can take me away or put things in my head, So I had nobody. I didn't talk to my mom for like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Because of this whole situation, and with my sisters too. So, and I didn't realize that. I just didn't know what was going on. And then he used to take my money. He used to go to my purse and take my credit cards, and I didn't know what was going on until I get a statement, and all this money
is gone.
It's gone, and I'm like, what's going on? And I just didn't know, and he played dumb.
Yeah.
And he used to fight for nothing. And he would scream and yell and throw things in the house and slam the cabinets and say a lot of verbal insults, And again, I was with him when I was 17. So I'm ignorant. I'm so ignorant. So I don't think that this is nothing out of the ordinary.
It was a normal lifestyle for you.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, well, at least he's not hitting me. That's what I was saying to myself, because I didn't know that's abuse.
Yeah.
What he was doing is abuse too. So, it comes to a point where a lot of people ask me, well, why did you stay so long? And that's the famous question that a lot of people ask victims of domestic violence in general. Why did you stay so long in that relationship? And you're not going to understand it until you go through it. Why did I stay so long? Because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know this was abuse. I thought this was normal. And I wanted my kids to be raised with this man because he's the dad, and he was very slick. These people that are abusers, they're smart people. They know how to manipulate you, and you don't even know. They make you believe you're crazy.
It's funny that you do. It's not funny because none of this is funny. Yeah. But it's just funny that you do say something like that, because I don't think they really realize what they do. They just do it because they want a certain outcome from you.
Exactly.
So, and then they just get away with it for a long time. And it's hard to see anyone go through that. It's hard to hear that anyone has gone through it. I know I've gone through my fair share of things, and it was hard to get out of it. And I felt guilty many times when I tried to get out of certain situations. So how did you finally get out of it?
I think I reached that point because he was threatened to kill me and my kids. So then from not knowing, because it's all in stages, from not knowing, you tolerate, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in this box where you're afraid. You find yourself alone. You have no help. And then he's threatening you. Well, I'm going to take the kids away from you. And then I'm calling attorneys. I'm like, well, if a biological father takes the kids away from you, is that considered kidnapping? No, that's not considered kidnapping.
Now it is, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, back then, no. So it's like, okay, oh my God. So I stayed there. And then what made me stay there longer than what I was supposed to was that we find out that he was suffering from a mental illness. he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So now I'm here finding myself. I'm like, okay, so I need to help him because he's doing all these things because he's not realizing that he's doing that because he's sick. So let me help him because he's the father of my son, and what my son's going to say if I don't help this man. And okay, all that's nonsense that you think. But helping him, if he doesn't help himself, all the help that I'm giving him is worthless.
Yeah.
So I came to a point where I didn't give three shits no more. Like I said, if this man's going to kill me, then let it happen. Then he's just going to have to kill me.
Yeah.
That was my last thought. And that's when I had the courage to confront him and just leave.
Oh, wow.
That's it. I was down for anything and everything.
Yeah.
I said, if he's going to kill me, then that's it.
You just got to that point that
I just got to that point. Yeah. I said, you know what? I'm sick of it. Maybe it's better for me to be dead than to be going through this. So let him kill me. But I'm just going to leave trying.
Yeah. Now, with any of that you went through with him, any of those experiences, any of those traumas ever hold you back from progressing in life itself?
No.
Outside of him?
No. Because if there was one thing that I had in my mind, I always, like every time he started acting up, I looked at him and I would say, can I curse?
Yeah.
I said, this motherfucker is not going to fuck with my life. He's not going to damage me.
Yeah.
Because I started seeing women that are victims of domestic violence that they cannot, when they get away from that situation, they cannot get remarried again, or they cannot be with a man again. And I'm like, no, because I always envision of having like this wonderful marriage life. I said, I know there's good men out there, and I wanted to experience that. I wanted to have a good man, somebody that make me feel good, wanted, and to talk nice to me.
Treat you like a princess.
Exactly.
Or a queen. Yeah.
So I always had that dream.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I'm Cinderella.
Now in your current situation?
Yeah,
or,
I feel,
really?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I found my prince, you know? And because if you see that story, she was, with the stepmom.
Yeah.
In my case, I was with this man, and you're a slave, and they treat you bad, and then you go and you see this wonderful man. He comes and rescue you, So
you're in a real life fairy tale.
Yeah, So because of that I had in my head, I always said, this man I'm not gonna give him that power. So I started going on therapy. And I started going on therapy, and then, and I started finding out more and more and more. And to this day, I go on therapy on and off, because when you go through a trauma like that, do you get over it? Maybe not. This is a trauma, and you're going to live with this trauma for the rest of your life. You just have to learn how to live with that. It happened to you. It's part of your life. It is up to you to not let that get in the way of what you're going to do in the future. So you have to learn how to control that. There are times that I'm at a supermarket or wherever I am, and I hear a voice that sounds like his, and it's just like, oh my God, it brings me back. And it's like I see him, like he's there. But I have to control that. Or sometimes I'm just like in a bad mood. I feel like terrible because of all those memories, because I think about it. Do I think about it? Of course I think about it. It comes to my mind. There's things that trigger me, and it makes me think about that. And then I get down.
Yeah.
And I get stressed or depressed or whatever. And but I have to learn how to get out of that, like quick. And that's what therapy for me is for, is to learn how to live with that. It's just part of me. It happened to me, and that's just how it is.
Do you think your kids are one of the main reasons of you getting out of that situation?
Yes. I specifically my daughter, because my daughter was 8 years old. And And I looked at her and I said, my God, I don't want her to be, like, she's so cute. And I don't want her to, like,
feel like this is okay.
Yeah, I don't want her to see this. Like, I don't want her to be the type of woman that I was. Because when I look back, I was weak. I was this weak woman. I was not what I am now. I was just quiet.
I don't know if can you describe it as being weak, or you just didn't have the knowledge that it was anything out of the ordinary that you're going through. Because you said your mom was with this man that was physically abusive with her. So I think in our environment, we see things that people tend to say it's okay.
Yeah.
Or they stay quiet, and by them staying quiet, you feel that these actions are okay. And then we don't realize that we fall into those scenarios as well. May not be identical, but we don't see that there's anything wrong with it because we grew up in that scenario. So you broke that curse, that generational curse, so that way your daughter doesn't see that.
Yeah. But then I forgot about my son. And my son, he when I left this man, my son was 18. And he went through a lot. And that's another topic. And when I see him now, that he's not as, because he suffers from mental illness. But to this day, he does not want to, he don't want to get diagnosed. He don't want to go to a doctor. And that mental illness, if you don't treat it, it's just going to take you away. Yeah. And he's just going down that road. And it hurts me. It breaks me. And I feel guilty about it. I feel real guilty about it. Like, and I had to go in therapy for that. Because it was breaking me.
So do they say that you shouldn't blame yourself?
Yeah. It's not my fault.
You were a young mom, too.
I was a young mother. And again, I was naive. I didn't know anything. I didn't have a mother to tell me, hey, this is going on. Men are like this. You got to watch out for this. These are red flags. I had nothing. I experienced everything on my own. And I just went through the hard way.
I think I was talking to another guest before. They said the first child is always that experimental child. So, I mean, I don't think that there's any wrong or right way of parenting, but you can't blame yourself for him to have mental illness because that's just genetic and it happens. It's not like you gave it to him.
I didn't give it to him. That's absolutely true. But then when he tells me it's your fault.
Your son says that? Yeah. That's manipulating you.
Exactly.
So
it's your fault. And why did you stay with that man for so long? And this and that. That breaks you. Yeah. And then sometimes I tell him, I said, but don't you realize that I was a victim of that man as well? And I didn't know what to do. But then again, it's not for him.
It's the manipulation part. That's just part of their illness. So you can't let that happen. You can't let him do it because he's doing the same thing that man did to
But then it's different because now it's coming from my son.
Your child, yeah. So you have a different bond with him. You have that love for him. So it's hard, like, damn, is it my fault?
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I get it. It's I'm afraid. This is one thing, like, I don't know if you know that I have PCOS, so I talk about this a lot. And with this PCOS, it wreaks havoc in my body. Yeah. So right now I am kind of like afraid because I've gained so much weight and it's a challenge with the weight part. But what comes along with it is the fertility issues that I'm going to be 43 and I still don't have any kids. I don't know if I'm ever going to have any biological kids. So with that, I always say maybe it was God's purpose not to give me any biological kids because of what I went through. I may do that to my own kids. Yeah. So I question that. And I always just like, there's times that I question God with like, would I do that? Would I be, I don't want to say a monster, but would I deflect certain things and be such a mean mom or be so hard or so strict or just be something I shouldn't be to my kids, be abusive mentally, physically. So it's like maybe God gave me this for a reason, so that way this is me breaking the curse and I don't put this on my kid. But then I had to be like, you know what, that's not true. That is not true. But like I said, it's not, I don't see it's your fault at all, because having mental illness is something genetic. And whether you're still with him or not, he may have had it anyways. Exactly. So you can't put that blame on him. You can't let him manipulate you either. I know the last time we talked about that situation, you did have him staying somewhere else outside of your home. And you still maintained him. Are you still doing that?
I'm still doing that. He's living in an apartment. I still have to help him.
Is he working or anything?
He's working, but what he gets paid is not enough. And, a lot of people just tell me, just stop helping him. He's already grown and this and that. But then my mother's side says, well, if I don't help him, he's going to be in the streets. Like, how would that make me feel? Like, I couldn't live with that. But then again, he's not doing what he's supposed to. He doesn't want to get the help that he needs. So I'm right now at this moment in my life, that's my fight right now. And then I have my daughter, and she suffers from depression, and I suffer from anxiety and PTSD. I just know how to control it.
So with everything that's going on, how do you manage to work and to run a business?
I have no idea.
And be a wife and still be the mom.
I have no idea how I do it.
So this is one thing that I learned. And when they told me, it was like, when you are coming from trauma and you're still going through trauma because you're still dealing with all of this mental illness and stuff, you're running off of adrenaline. And once you will no longer have that adrenaline and you're just at peace, it seems so weird and you feel like you're stuck and you're stagnant, like something's wrong.
Like you got to do something.
So right now you're running off adrenaline.
And it's funny that you say that because, and I remember this day exactly, and I will never forget this date, October 17, 2010, I think it was. That's when I moved here on October. On August. And he came.
Who's he?
The father of my kids.
So
that was my whole purpose of moving from New York to Florida. It was to get away from him. But he decided to come. But I already had a plan. I said, okay, I'm going to let him come, but he ain't going to last here. And that's exactly what I did. And that day, I bought him a plane ticket to Puerto Rico.
Nice.
I got a hotel stay with both of my kids and the dog. And when I came off from work, I told my son, I said, pack a bag because we're leaving. I have the hotel and everything. And when I came from work, he went to take a shower. And I told both of my kids, okay, get in the car, get the bag, let's go. And I had a bag. It's funny because living with him, I prepare myself for like anything. And I had this bag with all my personal documents and my kid's birth certificate and money and all that stuff right there. So
like
if something
plan.
happened, I'll just grab the bag and leave. So I had that bag and I said, give it to the neighbors and just wait for me till I get home from work. Sure enough, he went to the bathroom to take a shower. And I told my kids, get in the car. And it's funny because I kind of froze. And I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. I said, oh my gosh, should I leave? Should I stay? What am I supposed to do? And then my son, he was 18 or 19. And he gets up and then he stands right in front of me. And he tells me, man, if you don't leave now, I don't know what else he said, but I'm sick of this shit. You got to go now. And I said, okay, let's go. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. It's just that. I said, okay, let's go. And I got in that car and I was so nervous. I was so afraid. I was like, oh my God. But I just got in the car and left. I stayed in the hotel. I called his parents in Puerto Rico. I said, he's going to go to Puerto Rico. I have this plane ticket. You have to pick him up at the airport. I can't. No more. That's it. It's done.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it was a little bit of a chaos after that. But then when I came back and he was already in Puerto Rico, and I came back to the apartment, it was like I had this relief, like that weight that I had on my back, it was gone. And I felt weird. And for that first week, I had a headache. And I was like, what is going on with my body? Like, it was so relieved. So it's funny that you say that because that's exactly how I felt. And then I was home and I was just like, okay, I don't have to worry. I'm okay. Like, what's going on? So I didn't even know what to do.
It's crazy how all of this does happen with everything and being at peace. And then life starts to happen with, differently. But time is running out. We're in such deep conversation that I realized how fast the time was going. But with that being said, there's so many women out there that have gone through the things that you have gone through and want to become successful entrepreneurs. What is one advice that you want to give them before we leave?
Don't give up on your dreams. Look and surround your people in that area that you want to be successful. You have to break those old friends that you have that don't have that mentality of being a business person. You have to leave them behind. And you have to start looking for people that are already in that level that you want to be so they can lift you up.
Yes.
Because nobody's going to understand when you tell people, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. They're going to look at you and like, what? Are you crazy? And leave your job. So they don't understand that.
They deflect their own insecurities onto you. I always tell everybody that.
Yeah.
So be very careful who you tell what you want, your goals and stuff, especially when you're trying to be a successful entrepreneur, and never let those doubts and the insecurities and your traumas are going to be there, but never let that hold you back. But thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
It felt the time went by.
Oh my gosh.
So I may have to bring you back.
Yeah, there's so much to say.
There's so much more I know you have to say. And I don't want to just cut you off. But you have to come back. We have to come back and do this again.
Yeah.
But I thank you so much for coming on. And I want to remind everyone who's on podcast, on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, please, please subscribe, follow, and rate and review. Rating and review is going to help me bring on more guests and see what topics you guys want to have out there. But thank you so very much. And thanks, Stephanie, for coming on. And until next time, thank you.